Good afternoon. I'm Andy McFarlane. I'm the Chief Exec, and you've already been hearing Captain Emma Henderson MBE. Emma, do you want to say a little bit about yourself before I do the rest of the introductions? Well, we've got one mic, so we're going to throw it backwards and forwards.
Give me the mic. I think probably a lot of you already know who I am, given the number of selfies I've been taking on the stand this morning. But I was a captain at EasyJet I worked for EasyJet for 12 years. I wasn't a captain there for all of that time. And at the end of my career, that I didn't know was the end of my career, I set up a charity called Project Wingman, and that's why I'm involved with Leading Edge, because our charity galvanised the support of 6,500 grounded crew across the country to go in uniform into NHS hospitals and provide wellbeing support to NHS staff. And one of the disenfranchised group of people who were around at the time were students, cadet pilots, who weren't with an airline yet, so they didn't have a safe place to land, pun intended. And by asking them if they'd like to come and get involved in our charity, it kept them connected to the aviation industry. And Leading Edge stepped up and said, brilliant idea, send all our cadets to come and volunteer for you. So our lounge in Oxford and actually lounges across, come on in, that's fine, come on in. Our lounges across the country were partially crewed by Leading Edge cadets when they were facing a time of huge uncertainty and not knowing what was going to be happening for them. So that was how I was introduced to Leading Edge, and I discovered two things. Firstly, I really love the ethos at Leading Edge. We do things at Leading Edge in a way that I haven't seen at other flight training schools, and it makes me really proud to be part of. The other thing I discovered when we walked into the graduation ceremony the first time, I was with my husband, who's been in the Air Force for more years than I care to remember, because I'd be giving something away about Andy if I said how long. He walked in and he said, "Hello, Andy, you taught me how to be a navigator at RAF Finningley in the mid-90s. And I was like, no, this is my gig. You can't know everyone here. That's not fair. So it's quite nice to have that connection as well. So I've been working with Leading Edge for the last couple of years. You're going to hear a little bit about what I do. And it's just a really nice, I like it because it's kind of like an aviation family. So I stopped flying in 2020. I'm still very much connected with aviation. I do a lot of work to bring people into the industry as pilots, but also it's a huge industry. It takes 182 people to get a plane in the air, different jobs. So it's always worth remembering that. And I do a lot of work to encourage people into that. If anybody wants a mentor, come and find me. I will do my best to answer questions wherever you end up going. But that's a little bit about me. Now over to you.
Just quickly about me, I was in the Air Force, as Emma's mentioned. I did 25 years. I was on frontline squadron on C-130 Hercules. I was an ab initio basic instructor, and then instructor back on squadron, and then many other roles within the Air Force. Left, and through a circuitous route, went to that small company called CAE, and I was centre manager at Oxford for 3 years. We had 350 cadets, running them through various programs with various airlines. I then did a bit of consulting, spent a year with that other small company, L3 Harris, which you may have noticed is not in the room today. They have stopped European ab initio training a few months ago, which is a great shame for the industry. And in 2015, I sat down with a group of people and said, let's do it ourselves. Seems like a really good idea. What could go wrong? Hadn't planned COVID, definitely. And when we started our plan, Brexit and everything else wasn't really going to happen either. So two big things affected us just after we started. But it's been an interesting ride. We now have around 400 students in training and another 400 graduated in airlines. So we'll talk a little bit, not about flight training, it's about the rest of stuff as we go on. So we will be doing a bit of backwards and forwards between the two of us. So what am I talking about? It's the whole pilot ethos. It's beyond flight training, but for us, it's part of the whole thing. Talking about why is it so important to your career? It'll become hopefully clear to you as you go on. How does it actually work in practice, which is a lot of what Emma's going to say. I'm going to talk about our success, and more actually our graduate success, where they've gone, what they're doing, and then a quick summary at the end. And hopefully, as you'll see all the way through, got our smiling graduates doing what they love best, actually getting there into the cockpits of those airlines right across the board. And in fact, it's a bit strange when I look at it that 4 of the 5 on there are actually now on their second airline. They've swapped and gone on. So graduating, moving on, changing airlines to fit in with their lifestyles as they want to. Fine. I'll pass across.
So what happens at Leading Edge? What are we about at Leading Edge? So you'll see the top thing is that we are student-centric. And what does that actually mean? Well, it actually means we want to put you at the middle of everything. So you come first. Yes, we want you to graduate as highly trained, steely-eyed professionals. Of course we do. But we actually want you to be to understand not only how we are going to look after you on that journey, but how you're going to look after yourself when you graduate on from flight training school to your first job in an airline. Because as much as I love EasyJet and as much as I think the airlines are fantastic, they're not going to look after you in the same way that you're going to. Your welfare is going to be at the front of your mind, but they are running a business, and that's first and foremost. So we want to put you at the middle of everything we do. You obviously have to go through assessments. We have a training guarantee. What does the training guarantee mean? So much easier if you had 2 mics. I could just shout if you like.
A training guarantee. You come and you get assessed. Once you've done your assessment, if you're on the integrated course, if you fail something or need some extra training due to a lack of your ability, that's our fault. We've assessed you good enough, we haven't trained you well enough. So if you need an extra hour flying, you need a bit extra time in ground school, we pay for it, and that includes our accommodation. And that is from day one. If it's due to lack of work, we'll be having a different conversation with you, but we'll be talking to you earlier than anything goes wrong. We monitor your training all the way through. And that's something we do with the airlines as well. For our tagged or our students that have got conditional job offers, the airlines can have that data straight away, and we can tell how much extra effort you're putting in, how much study you're doing using our virtual learning environment. Are you reading the pre-course notes? Or if at the end of the course you've even read half of them? Well, we've had that, and we pointed that out to the person, encouraging them to actually work hard. It is a hard course, but it's important you do it. So the training guarantee is there to back up. It means you don't pay any extra, so it's transparent on there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. And I want to just ask a question, and now I want to ask the potential pilots in the room. So mums and dads, please resist the urge to put your hands up here. But potential future pilots in the room, and actually mums and dads, that might be you. It's never too late. I was in my 30s before I started flying for an airline. And even if you're in your 50s, you've still got 15 good flying years in you, just saying. But potential pilots in the room, I want you to put your hands up if you think that being a pilot is not too much like hard work, a lot of good fun, and posing in Ray-Bans in front of aircraft to put on Instagram most of the time. Good. None of you need to leave the room. I don't need to offload you at this stage. It is hard work. What you're about to embark on, wherever you go and learn, is hard work. But my God, it's the best work you could possibly do, because the job itself is wonderful. And if you put the work into your training, and you won't ever stop doing that, by the way. It doesn't stop when you finish the training. It carries on all the way through your airline career. And that's something I prepare you for as part of the whole pilot, which is what we'll come on to in a minute. But it's really important that you understand that what you're about to embark on is going to be hard work for the rest of your life. But it won't feel like work because it's so much fun. And actually, you end up pinching yourself that you're allowed to take these aircraft into the skies and someone else is paying you to do it, which is wonderful. So I just want to set that expectation for all of you, actually, because parents, you need to support your kids as they go through this training, because they are going to turn around to you and say, well, they're expecting me to do this, and they're expecting me to do, I've got to do this learning and that learning. Welcome to the world of work, because that's exactly what's going to happen when you join an airline as well. And we want to prepare you for that in the best way we can. So that's why we do things the way we do. But you'll see at the bottom here as well, we've got wellbeing training and support. And we're very careful to make sure that we do look after your well-being, but also that we explain to you what you can expect in an airline so that you know how to look after your own well-being. It's really important that you understand, for example, the difference between being tired and being fatigued. They're two different things, and the difference between a bad day and stress. So we work with you on that so you understand what that all means, so that you're really prepared to go out into the industry. So got another question for you coming up now. Hopefully, if my clicker is not out of range. There we go. There we go. So, I am going to force you to give me out loud answers now. And actually, because this mic's not plugged in, we can walk around, can't we? So, what makes a good pilot? If nobody puts their hand up, I am actually just going to pick on people. What qualities do you think makes a good pilot? Come on, somebody. What qualities makes a good pilot?
Calm and detail focused.
Calm and detail focused. Perfect. Thank you. One over here.
Willing to always learn.
Willing to always learn. That's one of my favourites. Constant curiosity. Anybody down the back here? Perfect. You're just making me walk around these wobbly shoes, aren't you?
Teamwork and workload management.
Teamwork and workload management. Absolutely brilliant. Any more answers up the back here? I don't want to have to walk down here again. You look like you really want to give me an answer.
Leadership.
Leadership. Love that. See, when you force people to give you answers, they give you great answers. I think education should be a bit more forcing people to do things. We don't. That's not what we do at Leading Edge, by the way. We're much nicer. Any answers on that? You look like you're really desperate to give me an answer. I know you're not necessarily here to learn how to be a pilot, but you're looking at that mic going, please come to me.
Education.
Education. Absolutely. You've got to learn how to fly, haven't you? One hit. Oh, brilliant. Love this one here.
Empathy and resilience.
What a great answer. Empathy and resilience. Absolutely. Any more answers there? Who am I going to pick on next? You know you want to, you look like you really don't want to answer at all.
Good at communicating.
Good at communicating. Absolutely. Thank goodness for that, because I never stop communicating. As my husband always tells me. Any answers from this row here?
The perseverance to keep on going, even though if you want to stop.
Absolutely brilliant answer. Well done. Thank you. Maybe one more answer from the front row, or are you going to use your magic clicker? Well, while it's trying to work, let's give everyone a round of applause who's brave enough to speak into the mic. Thank you for that. Thank you for not making me look like a complete idiot. Maybe if you stand closer to it. That's my rubbish clicker, by the way. So what do you notice about that? Do you want to comment on that, Andy?
I noticed that nobody said the ability to fly an airplane. Because actually for the airlines, that's a given. That is absolutely and utterly a given. And every flight school will teach you to fly an airplane. They don't necessarily teach you the others. And this is where we're starting to get into what is the whole pilot. So, yeah, you've got to be assertive. You've got to be a team player. You are managing a team. If your first job, you're second in command of that airplane, and it's a big team. So it's not autocratic, it's actually teamwork all the time. But there are times where you can't go, oh, should we have a chat about this? Yeah, I know the engine's on fire, but let's have a cup of tea and a chat. It doesn't work that way. So you've got to make decisions quickly, following the rules, following your standard operating procedures and the like, but being assertive and being a leader. There's many, many times where suddenly a pretty young person is suddenly in charge of that airplane. Quite young then.
Well, I can say young, but we're not allowed to say
Oh,
pretty anymore.
okay.
Well-being.
So, you come start your training, 18, 19 and a half, you are a first officer in the airplane. Depends which airline you go to, 4 years later, you are captain. So you've got to be looking at those teamwork things, leadership, all the qualities, communication, which was fantastically put out, all required to make you part of that team, to get you ready to be in the front of the aeroplane.
That's absolutely right, what Andy says. When you're being recruited into an airline, you're not being recruited as a pilot, you're being recruited as a future captain, and it's worth remembering that. Because when you're sitting in the right-hand seat of your Airbus, don't go Boeing. They'll kill me for saying that. I was an Airbus pilot. When you're sitting in the right-hand seat of your Airbus, and you're not sure what the answer is, you look to the left and you speak to the captain and you learn constantly. When you move to the left-hand seat, it's only about a foot across the flight deck, but it's a really big gap. Because when you look left, who's looking back at you? That's your reflection in the window next to you. You need to know it all. Or at least you need to know where to find it all, even if you don't know it all. And 180 people are sitting behind you, expecting and trusting that you know what you're doing. So you better be good at it. And actually being good is something that you need to make your mantra. You need to be good at what you're doing, because other people are paying you to be good. They're expecting you to be good. And your families want you to, you want to go on holiday knowing that the people in the front of the aircraft are doing a good job because they want to be there, because they want to be exceptional at what they're doing. So the importance of non-technical skills. I mean, how many of you have got Flight Simulator at home? Quite a few of you in the room. It's quite, I wish I'd had Flight Simulator when I learned to fly. I had a cardboard cockpit that the Air Force gave me of a Bulldog, and I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near the aircraft until I'd actually proven that I could do all my checks around this cardboard cockpit. I felt like a right Wally. But I also felt quite cool because, it was the 1990s and girls were only just allowed to fly planes. So, but you've got all these technical skills you've been building since you were able to turn on a computer, and that's fantastic. But actually, it's the non-technical skills, arguably, that make the difference between me wanting to sit next to you to Tel Aviv and back. I don't want to sit next to somebody who can't communicate and is just maybe a bit of an arrogant, I'm not going to say the word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? We don't want to have that. We don't want to sit in, our offices are small. We don't want to sit in those tiny offices at the front of an aircraft with somebody who can't communicate, isn't a team player. We know where the only I in team is. You need to be able to solve problems. You need to be able to communicate well. Why do you need to communicate well? Anybody got any thoughts on that? And I am going to come around the room with the microphone again if you don't shout out answers. Anybody got any thoughts on why you need to be good at communicating in an aircraft? Yeah. Safety, absolutely. What are the challenges in an aircraft of communication? Anyone? Yeah, it's a noisy environment, very noisy environment. That's why we all buy our own noise-cancelling headsets. The biggest challenge is that actually 2/3 of your team, if you're working for EasyJet on an A320, there's 6 of you on a crew, okay? 2/3 of your team are behind you and on the other side of a locked and bulletproof flight deck door. So how are you actually going to communicate that with them throughout the day and make sure they understand that you're all part of the same team? You've got their backs when they're scared because something's happened something's happened to an engine. And by the way, anybody who is fearful of flying, even though their child might want to become a pilot, engines don't catch fire very often, but you've got to be ready for it when it does. And if you're down the back and you're scared of that happening and you're thinking, what's going to happen to me now? You need to know that your flight crew and your captain has got your back and is going to get you on the ground safely. How do you instill that in your cabin crew if you're not good at communication? So there's lots of things like that you need to think about. It's so much more than just the flying, isn't it? And actually a lot of that comes down to how you treat people at the beginning of the day as well. How you show up to work is as important as whether or not you can pole it around the sky, as they say.
So looking at the assessment, not all flight schools do an assessment. We do it for 2 reasons. One, so you know that you can do it. Wherever you go, whichever route you take, modular, integrated, whatever, it's a lot of money. And you need to have a pretty good idea that at the end of the day, you actually have the skills to be able to become a pilot. Some places will just take your money and don't worry about whether you can pass or not. That's a no-no to us at all. And secondly, I want to know that you can be trained, so that our team are taking people who are all together, all at the same standard, at a fairly quick rate through your training, 18 months from start to finish, ready to go and fly right-hand seat of that, maybe an Airbus, maybe a Boeing, whichever, but are ready to go and be a second in command in the airline. So we start off with a personal spec. So we'll send it out to you, and it says, these are the essential criteria, and these are desirable. Have a look at what you've got, and work out where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and then we can work with you as you go through your career and your training to develop the ones that you are sitting there at the desirable that you may not have. So we can work and we can polish those and develop you as an individual. Say, we bring you along and we give you some online tests. CATE ones, they are pretty standard across the aviation industry. And then, one of the strange things we do in the interview is say, bring an object, any object, that best describes you. And the reason for that is to say, have you thought about it? Have you talked to other people? Because you can't just go, okay, I'll take this bottle of water or whatever. It doesn't work. You've got to bring something that you talk to your family, your friends, and thought about it. I thought, for me, what would I do? Well, I bring a globe. And why? Well, I'm a well-rounded guy, well-travelled. I've been to lots of places in the world, so I actually learned how to integrate with lots of different people. All sorts of things. It doesn't matter what the object is. It's really irrelevant. It's got you thinking about yourself and getting yourself relaxed into the interview.
What object would you bring, Andy?
Yeah, definitely. I would go for the globe, I think. Yeah. Not as strange as one guy that came. He brought his dad on his hand in a little vase. And actually, last November, I said this, and he was in the audience, and he came and had a chat with me, and he went through it all, and it was like, yeah, this is my dad. He was my driving inspiration to do this. He passed away a couple of years ago, and I knew he'd be very proud of me to get to this point and everything. It was a brilliant answer that he did. Absolutely fantastic answer on it all. But again, it doesn't matter what you have. It's the thought process behind it that's really important to try and get you thinking more.
That makes me feel really shallow because I was going to be a banana. I feel gutted now.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's why. We then go on. We take you an interview, so 2-on-1 interview, so usually an HR person and a pilot person sitting there, and we're not after. Some places are saying to you, okay, tell me how a high bypass jet engine works. I'm not interested if you know that or not, because that's our job to teach you later on. We want to know about you as an individual. What have you done in life? What opportunities have you had? If you're 17, you probably haven't had a lot of opportunities, but we make you think a little bit about it. Have you been in cadets? Have you been in the football team? Do you play chess? Whatever. It's just to get you thinking a little bit more. And as Emma mentioned earlier on, why? Airlines recruit captains, not first officers. It's somebody showing a potential of a captain. So we've got to try and find that at you at 17 or older, but at 17-year-old, have you got the ability, we think, to be a potential captain? So that's what we're trying to get out of the interview. And then we do a group exercise. So we give you a problem, and there's 6 or 8 of you together in a room, and you're going to solve the problem. So we're looking for a team player, a leader. Can you solve the problem? Can you analyze data in a short period of time? Are you one of these that goes, this is how to do it? And if the others go, no, I don't like that, you fold your arms and sulk in the corner, it's not going to work. It's all those things coming out in the day as we go along.
And can you listen? Well, for all the men in the room, the women will appreciate this. Can you listen? And when you listen, are you actually hearing what we're saying? I'll just leave that with you.
Anyway, whatever Emma said.
Sorry, what did I just say?
And all the time we're looking at values and the competencies, which we'll show you very shortly. Do you show the right values? Are you going to be the right person? All the airlines are recruiting the same sort of person as you go along. And the most important thing for us, do you have the right aptitude and the right attitude? Your background, everything else is utterly irrelevant. It's not that we don't care, it's irrelevant. That's your business, what your background is, what you do in life, or anything else. I don't mind. So we've got, can you be there? Have you got the ability? And do you have the attitude? You actually want to achieve this? And that's important. And then we see how we afford it. And sometimes we work together, and sometimes we pay people to go through training. Other times, if you've got the money, thank you very much. A couple of people have said, I don't want to do installments, can I pay you all the money up front? Thank you very much indeed as well. That works well for us. But overall, the most important thing is, do you have that passion, that attitude and aptitude to do your training?
And that, I think, is one of the things that's most important about, I'm going to give up with the microphone, I've got a loud voice, I've got kids. The most important thing for me about what Andy just said is the aircraft doesn't know or care whether you're male, female, what colour your skin is, what background you come from, whether you're rich, poor, come from a council estate or a estate in Shropshire. No, the aircraft does not care. What matters is, can you do the job? And if you can, brilliant. And if you can't, well, you either need to learn how to do it better, or it might not be for you. And I think it's really important what Andy said about that, and I spend a lot of time in my other job explaining to people this. It doesn't matter. Yes, of course we want to have more diversity in aviation, but actually what that's about is giving more people the opportunity. It's not about a box ticking numbers getting the right number of bums on seats. It's literally everybody needs to have the same opportunity. And that's what we do really well, I think, at Leading Edge.
So we talked about the competencies. Emma, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, I'll go for this one if you like. You can do the bit at the end if you like. So the competencies we look for are things like, now you might not know what these things are, by the way. You might look at some of those things and go, well, situational awareness, not sure. Leadership and teamwork, probably fairly self-explanatory. Effective communication, we've talked about. And you're trained in all of these, by the way. And actually, these are things you are trained and assessed in throughout your airline career. So twice a year, once you're working for an airline, you will go in the simulator. I don't know what other airlines do, but EasyJet currently do a 3-day sim detail every 6 months. And that revalidates all sorts of things. But the winter one is where your license is actually revalidated. And of course, you're trained on how well you can fly an ILS blindfolded or whatever. But actually, what they're really looking for is, what sort of leader are you? Are you really autocratic? Are you just telling people what to do all the time? Are you a little bit shy about stepping up and saying, actually, if you go that way, you're going to fly into a mountain, because that does kind of matter. It actually matters quite a lot, obviously. Problem solving and decision making. You don't need to know how to do all of these things now, but we train you to do those things so that when you go to your airline, you meet these competencies. And the reason that we have the competencies is to make the whole industry safer. So it means that when you have a problem that comes your way, for example, those things stack up so that you can actually make the problem go away, or at least make it smaller. And that's why we have them. And actually the ones at the bottom, the automation and the manual control, well, everyone's going to teach you to do that, because that's what learning to fly a plane is all about. You learn to fly manually around the sky, and then you learn how to do it with the autopilot in. That's just learning to fly. It's all amazing. As if by magic, the green box appeared around the competencies that used to be known as soft skills, but we don't call them soft skills anymore because it makes them sound less important. They're competencies that are really important when it comes to doing the job that you're about to embark on. And the bottom one is professional standards. And I think that one's really important as well, because we need to remember, and one of the modules we cover is professional standards. You need to remember that you are always an ambassador for your airline. And I'm sure all of you have seen the stories we all snigger at a bit and go, what an idiot, when a pilot gets in the news because they've done something they shouldn't have done. But actually, that really tarnishes the reputation of the airline. And when you go to your airline, you become it. So, companies like EasyJet are not flag carriers, and they're not, legacy airlines. They are startups still considered to be, 30 years old and still considered to be a startup. And all they've got to rest on is their reputation. So if you damage it as one of their members of staff, you're damaging the brand and not just your own career. So professional standards is something we're really hot on. And I was very touched recently to be told by a dad that had been to an open day that he was very impressed that everybody's ties sat at exactly the same point on their trousers because everyone was so smartly dressed. I thought that sort of attention to detail, it really, really matters. So start thinking about things like that now.
And as you see, the bottom two, those are flying an aeroplane. Everything else is not soft skills. I know every single airline, or every single ATO will teach you these two. They have to. But the vast majority won't teach you the rest. And we teach you, we assess you right at the beginning on this, because that is what, as Emma said, the airlines assess you on for your initial interview, and then every check ride you do. One thing you have to get really clear in your mind is you're about to enter the most assessed profession in the world. Nobody else gets checked more often than pilots.
If you don't like being watched, probably should leave the room now. Because everything you do is going to, as Andy says, everything you do from now on is going to be graded.
So our whole pilot ethos is about adding all of this extra in there. And that's why Emma comes into the academy and works with us. And we have many other things. We're working with leading other industries that help us develop you as an individual and polish those things. Everyone's got some of those in them, but we have to take them out and develop them further and get you ready for your first interview when you get out there to the airline.
So we don't just, I thought you just got me into stand doing like posy photos for social media with our arms in wings. But You don't necessarily have to do that when I come in. But I come in every other month. I come into Leading Edge and deliver in the morning and in the afternoon the same module as part of the whole pilot, which is something that largely I'm left to get on with to my own devices. So I am providing it for Leading Edge, and it belongs to Leading Edge, and it's something we've worked on together. But actually, this is not Leading Edge saying, right, you must do this way. This is me coming and telling you what it's like to work in an airline and learn from my mistakes and learn from the things that I've got wrong and the things I've got right, so that you don't go on in the future and make those mistakes yourself. It's much, much better for you to store that information away and just go, oh, about 20 years ago, I remember this old woman, I can't remember what her name was now, but she told me about that. It might just save your life one day. And certainly all the things that have ever got me out of trouble have been things somebody else has told me. So, you know, but I'll let you talk about the other things that Leading Edge does with the visits, Andy. But the training sessions we have every other month, they're really valuable for me as well, because I've made this course to deliver, but actually I change it all the time. So as young people change in their needs, so we'll adapt the course to meet those needs. So you're always able to feed back to me. I make myself available to you as Leading Edge students. So if you've got something that's really worrying you or something you're struggling with, or what's it going to be like on my first day at my airline? We'll talk about that. We'll prepare you for it so that you're never going into your job feeling anything other but than completely prepared and completely confident that you can do the job that we have trained you to do.
As you can see, apart from the things that Emma does, we do lots of other things in there. The KSA 100 is part of your ground school, learning about your knowledge, your skills in there. I can't say who we're working with, but we are working with a global, and an OEM is original equipment manufacturer, so a large global corporation. We're the only UK school, and we're only one of 4 in the world that's involved with them, developing the training of the future and how we bring on all of those not scoffed skills that we like to say, but all of those non-technical skills to develop our young students going through. Just a little bit about the accommodation. Our head of training asked, could he move into the accommodation? It's by far the best in the industry, by a long, long way, having worked in a number of organisations. So this is the accommodation which is at the final bit of your training, the whole block. It's called the Arc. 2-bedroom apartments, ensuite for 1 bedroom, family bathroom for the other, and you share the kitchen and lounge area. Everyone's got a balcony or a little patio on there. Great. The one at the top there is part of the large complex. There's 3,500 apartments on the complex. It's a gated out in Spain. 24 swimming pools, a little bit cold at this time of year, but the rest of the time of year, it's really, really nice. Why do we put this up? Well, we want all of our students either working really hard or relaxing, and their families knowing that they're in a nice, safe accommodation so they can relax and they can be themselves. So that's why we provide accommodation throughout all of the integrated training, just to make sure everyone's happy and safe. And it's a great place. I was there just last week. Results count, really, really importantly. So on there, ground school average, a 90% going through. So 90%, it's actually about 96% of our graduates or students pass their exams first time round with a 90% average, which is absolutely stunning results. They're all external validated, both UK and Europe in the EASA. Really, really proud of that. CPL, commercial pilot's license is probably the hardest test flying-wise you're ever going to go and do. And we've got a 97% pass rate on that. Again, pretty good going on it all. Very pleased with the instrument rating, the IR. For our integrated students, it's externally validated for the UK license. So again, 99% rate is stunning. And we've introduced, from the beginning, APS MCC. Does anybody know what APS MCC stands for? Airline Pilot Standard Multi-Crew Cooperation. We love abbreviations for the sake of it. This is the very final bit when you sit in the jet sim, where we say, you know all that training you've done, where you flew the aeroplane, you did the radios, you did the fuel, you did the navigation. Yeah, forget that. That's not how we work. Now, you're going to be pilot flying, and you're going to be pilot monitoring, and you're going to do the radios and everything else, and then you're going to swap over. And this is introducing you to how it actually works in an airline. So why? It's just because that's how training has evolved. For once, the two of you, two students, are sitting in the seats together in a safe environment in the simulator. But it is by far the most fun. You're just about getting towards the end of your training. You're just about getting out to the airline. And you're sitting in an A320, and every bit of that kit that's in that simulator could be put in the aeroplane. It's all real, which is fantastic. Great lead-in for the likes of going to BA or EasyJet on their Airbus fleet. I mentioned we have 400 graduates. Yeah, not biased in the slightest on there. So we look at it, say, Easy is the biggest at the moment. A couple of years ago, they approached us and said, can you start to supply people to us? And it's gone on from strength to strength in time. Again, BA as well. TUI is growing, Wizz is growing, which is fantastic. People being given job offers. And in that, you look on the far side, you can actually see those airlines have tagged people in training. So they've given them conditional job offers. They like what they see. They come in, they do assessments. TUI did assessments at their assessment centre. 46 of our current students have got job offers. 2 years ago, TUI had never taken a graduate pilot. They'd always taken experienced pilots. Catherine and the team came to us and said, I want to start taking graduates. How do I do it? So we worked with them, and then they went and worked with other academies as well, and they started to take graduate pilots. And then last November, she said, I want to tag people. Okay, she said, what's tagging? She said, everybody else is talking about it. I want to know what it's at. Okay, it's a conditional job offer, Catherine. This is what we do. She said, brilliant. Send me people from this point in your training to this point, and they'll start their induction into the airline from end of the summer. Right. They took a group, and they've given 46 of them conditional job offers, which is absolutely brilliant. So really, really pleased overall with the results we've got. And TUI will be taking more. We've got a Wizz assessment date already booked. EasyJet will be coming around very shortly. And that's the one I'm most proud of. 98% of our graduates have got employment with an airline within 6 months of graduating, which is a pretty good record. And that 6 months is coming down with the way airlines are recruiting at the moment. The airlines like the product that we produce, the quality of the individual is really good. We just had an airline in last week, and we've got another one in next week as well, just taking more and more graduates. So bear in mind, you come and do the assessment, you get coached through all of these skills to get you through training. I have less than a 1% failure rate in the integrated course, and then you've got a pretty good job, a rate of getting employed at the end of it. So the risk of embarking on this career is actually quite low with the assessments you do.
That's one of the things you'll learn, actually. Nicely segueing into the whole pilot, because one of the things you'll learn is how to weigh up risk versus benefit. And that's what you do for the whole of your career. You spend your whole life in an aircraft making decisions, and part of that decision is option generation, and this is part of the decision maker will teach you. But the option generation means you've got to weigh out, well, what's the risk and what's the benefit? And Andy's just explained to you beautifully there that, yeah, of course there's a risk on embarking on a course that costs a lot of money and you're diving into for a year or more. But there's a lot of risk involved in going to university and coming out and not being able to get a job. So actually, if you're targeting your training and your money and your life towards doing this job where you've got a 98% chance of getting a job at the end of it, you know, it just makes more sense. It's when you weigh it up, risk versus benefit, the benefits are much, much higher than the risk.
And just to summarise on it, everyone teaches you the bottom two, not everyone teaches you the rest, and they're all as important. In fact, I'd actually put more weight on this. Not that I'm biased towards an Airbus, but you stick it on an automation, wow. It tells you no most of the time about things. When you want to do naughty things in the simulator for a bit of fun, like take the current or previous Transport Secretary flying low level down the Thames past the Houses of Parliament, and it's saying, no, you can't do this. So you've got to turn off the automation to let it go. So flying on automation is very important on there. But these things are absolutely vital to your career.
I think what you're trying to say is everyone can teach you to fly a plane, but not everyone has Captain Emma, right? No? Yeah.
So on there, say, great. It's a lot more to become a successful pilot. There's a lot more than just flying an aeroplane. There are all those extra skills that you all have in you to some degree. But what we look at is how we evaluate you, take those skills and develop them during your training with us and taking you on ready to go out into the big wide world to go and be that first officer. And what I love the fact is we've got current first officers in airlines who have given up their days to come and be on our stand to tell everyone how much they enjoyed their training with us and how all these extra bits really matter. And I'm sure if you want to go around and talk to the Jet 2 people or whatever, they will say similar things about our graduates, which is fantastic to hear.
So just to add to that, I've obviously still got a lot of mates who work for EasyJet, a lot of them are training captains, and they have told me that they've noticed, people are starting to really notice the difference in the cadets they get coming from leading edge versus cadets they get from anywhere else. And that's because they're noticing that there's just a little bit more about them, a little bit more self-awareness, a little bit more willingness to kind of think outside the box and step up when they're needed. So, you know, that's not coming from me, it's coming via me, but it's coming from captains that I know and are my friends at EasyJet who know what I'm doing. And, you know, they can be quite harsh because they'll tell me if they don't think that they like something. And they are saying we are noticing the difference with leading edge cadets.
I think the last sentence is really important. We're firmly of the belief, and the airlines are endorsing this, that the whole pilot is what makes the difference out there and makes our graduates so successful in their chosen careers. So what I'm asking you for the couple that haven't been to our stand, please come and visit the stand. Book an open day. Come along. We do them 8 a year or so. So come along, see us. Book assessments if you're ready for it. They are free if you sign up today. Debbie and the team on the stand will take that. Take your booking. Plead for me. Go and look at the other academies as well. Go and visit them. Go and see what they offer, and don't be confused or fooled by the headline price. Look at all the details. What are they offering for the money? What else is missing? In your show guide, there's a central a fold-out 2-page thing which shows all the things that we offer for our headline price, and then you can compare and contrast with the other schools. It is an expensive route, whatever you do. There is no way getting around that. But we think we offer some really good value for money and all the S that comes with it. So happy to take, or actually even better, Emma will take some questions, whatever you'd like to ask, and we'll see how we go. Over to you.
Great. Who's got some? Thank you, Andy, for that. That's really brilliant. Yeah. Who has got some questions then? I really hope there are some questions, because remember, curiosity was at the start of this. So I hope there's lots of questions that lots of people want to answer. Who wants to go first? At the back there, Fab. Can you shout, or are you going to?
Yeah, that's fine. So one of the key headlines was obviously the 98%, I guess, job with an airline success rate. Well, just to be pedantic, I wanted to check that that's a 98% being a pilot job rate, because all it said was 98% job with an airline. 6 months.
Fair comment, yeah.
That could be, you know, baggage handler, checking desk, etc., etc. So is it 98% as a pilot within 6 months?
It
Absolutely.
could be, yeah. Okay.
100%. It's 98% as a pilot, first officer, second officer within an airline. Some have gone into different fields, as in they've gone into a charter field, the like, but basically it's living the dream.
And that's within 6 months as well, remember. So, you know, 7 months doesn't go into the statistics. So. Of course. Shall I bring the microphone to you so everyone can hear?
Do airlines, when they're recruiting, have a preference between integrated and modular students?
That's one for you, Andy.
Unfortunately, yes. All airlines take integrated students. Not all airlines take modular students. And the reason for that is it's a risk factor. Airlines come in and assess an ATO training organisation. If you've done modular and you've gone and done your ground school here, your PPL here, a bit of your flying there, a bit of your flying there, they just go, it's too difficult to go and evaluate all those schools, so we just go, not taking you. Go fly for somebody else, get 500 hours, come in as a DEP, a Director Entry Pilot. With us, it's different because a lot of our modular students do modular training all the way through with us. So we are getting modular students into lots of airlines. But as a rule, they go, no, it's just easy. It's a lazy way of doing it, but it's just risk factor. And as Emma said earlier on, it's that, how well does it work out for them? What's the risk? What's the perception? It's just easier not to do that. Also, legally, ground school, if you're in a class working through ground school for modular, you need to do 650 hours in the classroom, and integrated is 750 hours in the classroom minimum. All our modular students sit in the same classroom with our integrated students and do 750 plus. As far as we're concerned, you're a student in our academy, so we go back to that bit at the beginning, attitude and aptitude. I'm not interested in the rest of it, really doesn't bother me the slightest, because at the end of the day, you get exactly the same qualification. So we want you to be the best you possibly can. Your choice of which route you take.
It's about consistency of training, really, because I was a modular student, you know, because I was old when I became a pilot, or the second time around. And now I was one of only 12 people that EasyJet took on as people who already had licenses on this kind of modular route. And I don't know, I haven't heard of many people that they've taken on since. Not because we were really terrible, but because because the flight training schools are able to offer integrated for all of those reasons. That you've got to have consistency and know that you can guarantee the standard if you're putting people into the air. Question over here.
Two questions. First question was about the BSc component. Could you clarify which university it is associated with and what is the tag BSc called?
Okay, so I'll do one at a time because I'll forget otherwise. So BSc is a ordinary level BSc degree with Buckinghamshire New University at the moment. Okay, so on the integrated course, all our students do the degree. It's part of it. It's part of the whole pilot bit. We didn't have enough time to go into detail, but it's baked in. So what is in year one is actually of your degree is ground school. They've actually checked out ground school and said that's enough for the first year of your degree. Year two of your degree is the Buxton University lecturers come into the academy, UK and Spain, and you do some dissertations in that phase of your training, and that qualifies you to get the degree. If you want to go on and do a full honours, a master's, you can do. Those are separate modules once you've left us, done your own thing. So it's all together. Does a couple of things. Helps you be that all-round pilot. If you want to go to Wizz Air and you want to get into management, you have to have a degree. More and more of our students are 18 years old, so we say, well, let's get a degree all at the same time. It makes it nice and easy. It also opens up student loans if it's your first degree. So you get £18,500 within the first 2 years. That goes from the government to the university to us, and then we give you a credit note. Every penny of that comes off your training fees. Everybody's eligible for maintenance, and it depends on means testing how much you get. That money goes direct to you as an individual, and you can choose whether you use that to spend money, living money, or you want to pay some of your fees off. Does that explain?
And the maintenance loan presumably could come off your fees as well, because you're saying that your accommodation is included. Is that correct?
Yes. If you want maintenance, quite a few of our students use their maintenance loan for here, but it's up to you. That comes to the individual, and they can choose what they want. So that's a discussion, I think, between you two. What's going to happen? Yeah.
And then my last question was around the difference between the integrated course and the CML option. Is it CML?
MPL?
MPL. The EasyJet version.
Yeah, MPL.
The idiot mother doesn't know.
Yes.
The ones where you. Yeah.
So the only person offering the EasyJet route at the moment on the MPL is CAE. So you still pay for your own training, but you've got guaranteed your condition job offer to go to EasyJet at the end of it. MPL is multi-crew pilot's license. So you do the same ground school, same-ish 100 hours flying, and then you go and sit in the simulator. And you do all the rest of your training in the simulator using, in that case, EasyJet standard operating procedures. And you do the bit that you do right at the end of our course, you start to fly, pilot monitoring for quite a considerable period of time in the sim. It's a different route. You get a multi-crew pilot's license at the end of it. which only allows you to fly for that airline as it starts. Other airlines may accept them, may not. At 1,500 hours unlocks and becomes an ATPL, same as everybody else, but you've got to get to 1,500 hours. Okay. But TUI are offering one, Easy's offering one. The jury's out. It seemed like it was a good way of training. It is pretty good, but you are locked to that airline. And what happened during COVID, quite a lot of students on NPL got dropped. So suddenly you've got a license that's useless to you, depending where you are training. And to qualify, you need to pay a lot more money to get onto the ATPL route again. So it's, I think now, pretty safe.
And remember, if you take that loan out, those of you who might have the loan, when your parents ask you what you're spending the maintenance loan on, the answer is books, not beer. Question over here.
I was just wondering what level of experience your instructors are. Are they hours builders or are they experienced airline instructors?
We've got a mixture. So we've got an awful lot of experienced airline instructors. For example, last night was the first annual awards given by FIRE, people running this organisation, and one of our ground school instructors got best ground school instructor in the industry award. So many years of ground school instructing. In flying instructing, I've got everything from new instructors out in Spain teaching the early phase through to people who have spent the last 30 years instructing. I also have fill-ins who are current airline pilots that come and teach as well in the flying phase. Of our APS MCC, so the jet bit of training, we have 3 permanent staff, who are basically management, and then everybody else that instructs is a current airline pilot. So they're up to date on all of the SOPs, all of the latest things that are happening, and they're the ones that come and teach our students. So there is a mixture, but we've kept very careful where the dilution rate is of new instructors with experience quality in there. It's really important. So we have a complete standard cell that checks everybody out and works with them, builds them on as we go along. Again, different from other ATOs, with having a standard cell and doing continuation training.
How many students do you take each year? Is that dictated by jobs available?
How many students, and is it dictated by jobs available? Students up to 20 per course every month. We start-ish the first Thursday, off day to choose, I know. First Thursday of every month is what we start with, say 16 to 20 on a course. We're just putting an expansion building down in Spain, so we will be doing more courses in Spain as well for Europeans or anyone who wants to go to Spain for a year to do ground school there as well. So we're increasing the capacity on that. But overall, it's ish 20 a month. Is it dictated on what's available at the market? No. COVID hit, and Balfour turned around and said, "Oh, end of the world, stop training, never ever do pilot training. I'll give it up for at least 10 years or forget it, change your career completely." We said, crack on, keep going. Andy O'Shea, who used to be the head of training for Ryanair, said the best time to be in training is when lots of things are going wrong in the world and there's no shortage of pilots. Because when there is a shortage of pilots, you just graduated. And that's what happened for most of our graduates. They got snapped up as soon as they came. This time last year, the average time between graduating and a job offer was 2 weeks. Now we're tagging more people in training. I could actually class it as less than that. But no, we don't look at that. It looks like the industry is going to be at the rate it's at for 4 years plus. And I did have an airline this week in assessing people to start on the 11th of April. Not that they buy aeroplanes 8 years out and then go, oh, pilots, yeah, I need some of them. But that's what they do a lot of the time, unfortunately. So there is a shortage. It can be really quick. Are we okay on time, or do we have more questions?
Yeah, close.
Okay.
Question.
Just going to tell me about the modular and any advice for maybe later on career switches and maybe trying to work as far as possible as less rolling.
So, modular routes and career changes later in life. So, yeah, absolutely. We take anybody and everybody in there. So our youngest person that came into training was 18. She actually started on her birthday. And the oldest person was 59 coming into training. We have an awful lot of career changes, and they vary to whether they go integrated or modular route. Whichever route you choose, which is right for you, is the right route to take on that. So it all depends on your personal circumstances, but we can work with everybody. So attitude, aptitude, everything else is your call. We're going to have to talk greater observations. Okay.
Are there any
It's
more
time,
questions?
Tom.
Well, yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
is there any more questions before we wrap up? Just one more over here. Have we got time very quickly?
We're actually waiting for the next crowd.
Okay. If you want to come up, you go and talk outside, anybody, or come back to our stand, and we can answer your questions individually.
Thank you all for coming. And good luck with your future careers.